Can understanding our past lives help give clarity and healing in our present life? Stay tuned for this episode of Spirit Lift. Leon, just to start out for this episode of Spirit Lift, can you please explain to our audience what is a past life regression?
So a past life regression is usually when you're guided into a hypnotic trance and you connect with a past life, a life you've lived before this life, when your soul had a completely other life separate from this one. But that doesn't mean that they're not connected to who you are now. There is a common theme that connects all your past lives to who you are now.
And do we just take different roles from previous lives, previous situations, to then define as a way of evolving into where we get to where we are now in this current life? Is that how it works from your experience?
Yeah, just like we evolve through life, from childhood to adolescence, and we become wiser, and in our wisdom and our knowledge, we're able to embrace and enjoy life more. As we go through human lives on Earth, a very similar thing is happening, is we're evolving and growing from those experiences. And that's also true to some of the experiences that maybe we haven't quite healed and completed that growth. So there could be trauma in our current life that we're still working through. And there can be trauma in past lives that's unresolved that can also be affecting us in our current life.
I'm really curious on just that point really quickly on have you seen the movie Contact before with Jodie Foster and Matthew McConaughey?
Yes, it was a while ago, but yes.
It was based on a book written by Carl Sagan. And the reason I'm bringing this up, I watched it recently with my wife, and we both really love that movie. There's a scene in that movie where Jodie Foster is taken to another, I guess, dimension or someplace. And she meets her father, and her father had passed away when she was young. And then she's trying to ask him all these questions, and she's, like, tell me. And he's like, settle down. But he says something to the effect of, you will know and learn more as this continues, or as this journey continues. So I was curious, like, he seemed to be, after he passed away, into a different situation, I guess, through his spiritual growth and his spiritual essence, to be now somewhere else, and then speaking to her in such a way that was more like, you still need to know, but you will eventually know. So I'm curious, based on, maybe this is not a direct parallel with exactly what we're saying, but the essence of what he's saying, what do you think that means?
Yeah, no, that's a really good way of putting it. It's a good question, because when we die, or when our body dies and we go into the spirit realm, we reconnect with all that we have been. There is an awareness. We reconnect with our soul memories completely. So if we can bring that back to when we're born, there is this going through the amnesia of birth, where we forget all that we are, and all the connection and all the unconditional love and support that is always there. We forget about that, which primes us for the human experience, which is this sometimes very challenging place to learn and grow and become wise on that deeper level. This is an important aspect to understand about us as souls, because from our human perspective, from our ego, our human ego perspective, we often are seeing it just within this single life. And of course, when we are looking at everything from our ego's perspective, the ego dies with the body. So there's a fear of death, and there's a fear of loss, and all the things that you gain, whether it's material, wealth, or achievements, this all ends up falling away. So there's this very difficult lesson of letting go. And from the soul's perspective, this is all rich learning, and all these challenges are rich learnings. So there is this perspective, this sort of standpoint of when we look at our lives from being a soul, we view the situations from a very different place. So as you're saying within the movie, when she was connecting with her father, he was from that soul's perspective, and she was still in the human perspective, if you like. So there is this kind of comment on how you will understand all of this, almost sort of saying you can't really get all this from where you're standing, not fully, not yet. It will become clear to you. It's kind of how I took that statement that he was telling her, because we already know everything. Really, deep down, we all already know everything, but it's the amnesia of living the human life which removes us from that knowledge.
I mean, some people may or may not seek these questions out through the course of their own life. Some will. For those who don't, like, let's say there's people out there who just want nothing to do with trying to understand if there is a past life or a way of understanding why they're here in human form. Let's say they want nothing to do with that at all, period. Are they, from your perspective, really, when they pass away, pass on, will they understand to come to know, in your opinion, when their soul moves on from this earth, that they missed out trying to know and discover that? Is that something that they do eventually miss as having the human experience to wake up from that, in your opinion?
What often seems to be the case is with souls that are having a human experience that is, I think, as you're saying, sort of very removed from the awareness or wanting to have any awareness of being anything other than human, as it were, and having any other existence other than the human existence. When it is for them, there can be, they may transition very easily, and they may pass very easily, or there may be a bit of a delay because there's an adjusting, because they could be so rooted in this belief that when they say when they die, and as I was saying, from the ego's point of view, yeah, that's true, the ego and the body dies. But of course, when they find that they're not dead, that can be very confusing for those people that are very, very rooted in death being the end. So there can be this kind of loitering around and not really transitioning so quickly, because it takes a while to kind of gain the awareness of what's really going on. So that can be the case. But generally, it's the human experience. As that fades, as the human ego is as we let go of that human ego, we're able to then move into us, in connect with our soul family and spirit guides, and go to the light. It really is the heavy human emotions that keep souls earthbound, if you like, or anchored to the human experience. And it's as they let go of that, then they're able to move on.
If they don't move on in that way, like, do they understand when they do move on that they, I don't want to use the word failed, but like, can you have a right or wrong human experience, is my point, in your opinion?
No, it's just all experience. Mm-hmm. If you don't, from a pre-birth decision of what you might want to take on in life, if then when you get to the end of that life, you look back and go, man, I didn't quite manage to do all those things I intended to do, it's not a failure. Okay. It's just that, so maybe next time I'll try doing it this way or that way, because that way I might be able to achieve and learn what it is that I want to learn. So there's no failure as such. There's more of I will try and do that again and see if I can get it right next time, or see if I can achieve that I intend next time, if you see what I mean. So there's no judgment, as it were, apart from our own judgment.
There's people I've spoken with who kind of are interested, or at least come to a self-realization that for themselves, that there is life beyond this human form, life, sort of consciousness after death, if that makes sense. And for them, they say, I'll live out my human experience now. I love what I'm doing, what I have for now, but I would never do it again. So they say that now, like, this is my last time being on Earth and I'm done, right? Because they don't want to, because they get an understanding that there is more beyond this, but they don't want to go through the human experience again. But do you think, why would it be just understanding this theme of past lives and coming back maybe again and again in human form? Why would we not just want to go to a place that has no pain, no suffering, basically, why just not just live blissfully forever, for eternity?
Yeah. Well, there's several different ways you can look at that. The amusing analogy that comes to mind is, you go on the most terrifying roller coaster you could ever imagine going on, and you're on that terrifying roller coaster, and you're like, oh my God, you are terrified. It's really scary, and you're like, you just want to get off it, and you want it to get to an end, and then when it finishes and you get off it and you're safe, you're like, again, let's do that again. That was amazing. Yeah. And then, so there is that element. To bring it more into more of a deeper way of looking at that, it's different how we perceive it all from our soul's perspective. So we are souls having a human experience, as opposed to humans that may have a soul. So first of all, we're a soul having human experiences, and when we have the human experience, because of the amnesia that comes with the human experience, it seems very just that experience, which kind of creates this, that roller coaster ride has more to it, because it's more, we really do feel that we're on our own. We really do feel that we're not being loved, and from a soul's perspective, a soul may be, let's say, working on trying to speak their truth, having the confidence to be able to speak their truth. And maybe they may have had several lives where they're trying to learn how to work with confidence. That soul it'd be unlikely that soul would choose a family and a life that would automatically instill confidence in that person as a child, because they would have that confidence, and speaking their truth would be easy for them, so that it would be something that they do anyway. They wouldn't realize, because they've never been without it, So the soul would choose a situation where they would be maybe stopped from speaking their truth, made to feel that speaking their truth is wrong, and not being allowed to feel confident. So they go through life having to work at ways of coming to that place of being able to speak their truth and learning. And that's the soul's aspect. They're actually learning that growth. When we take it a bit deeper, and we go even deeper still to the soul's perspective of what the soul is really up to here, is if you imagine from the soul's perspective of being in this eternal situation of continuous bliss with beautiful sound, music, feeling, complete oneness, and everything's wonderful. Now, that's great, yeah, but imagine if you could then go into the darkness and experience terrible sounds and being on your own and all these difficulties, to then come back to that bliss. How much more would you be able to appreciate and understand and embrace this blissful state that you can be in? So it's the contrast. Go on.
Yeah, it's the contrast, I think, that's important. I love the roller coaster analogy, because I think that's a really, really good way to frame like why we may be doing this, right? Because there is a danger, there is a thrill, and then you want to do it again and again. Yeah. But I'm curious, just to thread off what you were just saying, Leon, have you, with anyone who's worked with you in the past, have any of those, I don't want to say patients or clientele or however you refer to them as, but anyone that you worked with in the past, has anyone as well had a near-death experience? They have?
Yeah, yes. Yeah. Well, I had a client recently, actually, who had had a near-death experience quite some 20 years prior. And it was quite interesting because after he had gone through the death of the past life that we were working through, he found himself reconnecting with the souls that he connected with from the near-death experience. And that was, for him, that was very easy to connect with them in a very meaningful way. And that was very, very powerful for him to do that. For him, that was difficult because he has a difficulty in actually letting himself go into opening up to emotion. So there was quite a bit of resistance. But even though there's a lot of resistance because of the emotion around all of this, it was very meaningful for him to actually connect with those souls again in that meaningful way.
The reason I bring that up, because of what we're talking about, the roller coaster analogy, for example, is I guess in some cases, from what I've researched as well, with near-death experiences, people have had that. Once they had that experience, they obviously, like, the veil's unlifted in a certain aspect, and they're able to understand really, what everything is really all about in a certain way, right? So they come back. When they come back from that, then they learn to appreciate what they're doing here, right? That's the whole point of it. It seems like that's why I'm, my wife and I were really fans of the stories of some people like Anita Morjani, even Alexander, people like that, because they have very unique stories about their near-death experiences. Anita Morjani was like really near death. I mean, she was late stage cancer, and even Alexander, who was a top, I guess, medical doctor from Harvard, went through scientifically how he couldn't have had that experience because of the damage on his frontal cortex, right? I think that's the right word. Frontal cortex, on his brain, right? Yeah. It would have been impossible for him to have had the experience he had. So that's why I'm curious, and asked you that question, is like, those who you may have worked with who had near-death experiences, have they come back to realize, like, wow, okay, I kind of get why I'm here now, and I kind of want to know more about all these things?
I think with near-death experiences, it's quite varied, So while there's Anita Morjani, who had that very, very rich experience and turned, her body, she was able to heal her body or allow her body to heal in an appropriate way. Some people have the near-death experience, and it can be just an awareness, and they maybe just see some loved ones, and that's very touching for them, and they realize that they should go back into their body and continue with their life. So there's quite a variation on how the realizations for those people can be. Like the case of the client that I spoke of, for him, he had a near-death experience, but it did change his life, and it did open him up to many things, but only to a certain extent, to what he could work with, because for him, he had, I think for a long time, he has trouble really going into the emotional field, which some people do have trouble with. So it's hard to really embrace that. There can be a resistance to how it all feels, So I think it's very varied. Past life experience can be similar to that, I suppose. I mean, it's an interesting point you bring up here, because it is relevant. Because for some people, a past life regression can be, that was really interesting. That's a real food for thought. Did I make it up? I'm not really sure. And then other people are like, it can be life-changing. And usually when people say, did I make that up? And I'll say, well, when you make up a story, do you usually cry? And they're like, no. And do you think you could make up a story that started in the middle, that went to the end, and then we went to the beginning, and only by going to the beginning we could make sense of the whole story, So for some people, it's like, okay, it kind of felt like I was making it up because that's what I'm thinking, but no, there's no way I could have made that up, And the realizations that they can take from these experiences, they can be life-changing. A lot of the time, it's around death. You know, a lot of people can fear death, their own death or the death of their loved ones. And with past life regression, it's often guiding someone through a whole of their past life or a large portion of that past life and through that death scene. And as they go through the death scene, they're able to become aware of the emotions that they take with them, the feelings, the thoughts, and also on a deeper level, understand that when they die, they don't actually die. So it's like this, having this opportunity to re-experience dying. So this often changes how someone relates to their own death and the death of their loved ones on a deeper level. You know, not just with the thinking mind of going, oh, I understand this concept, it's interesting, I think I believe it, to actually feel it and go, yeah, I feel this.
And that can bring healing to their current day situation, basically, right?
Yeah. So it's it can be very healing. Yeah, because, you know, if someone's worrying about death, and as I was saying, you know, at the very beginning, often the ego is worried about dying. You know, so from a human perspective, however we see the world, there is a fear around death, but that can be out of balance. That fear of death can be kind of really overriding other aspects of your life, and you can be very scared. You know, and I don't want to talk about that. Got to push that away. You know, and just that aspect alone can be really, really healing. The other healing aspects of it that often come through, I mean, there are many healing levels to it, which is relevant to the individual. But, you know, someone may have been hung, and by revisiting that life where they were hung and being able to process that appropriately, they may say, you know, I've had a client that used to get terrible neck pain and he doesn't get neck pain anymore. And he feels that is gone because of he connected with that experience and was able to make his peace with the people that hung him through the process of the past life. There may be relationships. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't always happen this way, but it does happen. I mean, other therapists in this field talk about this, and there's much written about it. There's, you know, what comes up quite a lot is relationships where people may have been persecuted or treated badly at the very least by somebody, maybe in that past life, maybe it's a family member or a friend. And they, at the end of the life, they recognize that person as someone in their current life. And there can be some processing, just that alone without processing, but often when this awareness comes up, there can be this opportunity to help process and bring some forgiveness around the relationship. And this then changes the relationship in their current life. And it's quite interesting how people talk. And it's like, I'm not sure if the person's changed or whether it's because I've changed, they're responding to me differently, but the relationship is different. It's changed that relationship and I feel more at peace with it. That's, you know, really, so it can be very healing on that level, you know.
Yeah. It just brings a lot more clarity, it gives you deeper healing. It can just generally make you happier, it seems like. This is just kind of a trivia question away, just out of curiosity talking about this. For people who are, you know, let's say Christians, like of Christian belief, I'm just curious, like staying on this, you know, main theme is like, do you think, I don't know, but do you think Jesus himself had come back like for another life, you know? Like, I'm just curious thinking about that because you think I just hit my brain, like thinking, okay, well, we're talking about this, but then Jesus, you know, he ascended, he went to heaven. You know, for people who are Christian or not, that's not what I'm trying to get at, but what I'm trying to get at is like him as the human form. I'm wondering, like,
I hear what you're saying.
One-off thing, 30 some years, and that's it. I don't know.
Well, it's a great question because I mean, I couldn't really answer the question about Jesus, because I have no experience of that at least I can remember. Right. But what I can say that is really relevant here is what happens with souls is as we evolve and we go through many lives, which is often termed as an old soul, which really is not talking about the age of the soul. It's talking about the experience a soul may have had with human lives. So the more human lives a soul experiences, the wiser they become from those human experiences. What often happens is those souls end up becoming guides for other souls that are still very, very rooted in the reincarnation cycle. So as we evolve living earth lives as souls, we become so experienced that we end up taking on the role of being a spirit guide for other souls, because we've lived so many lives, we have that experience, and we help guide them through the process as well. So there's an evolving. So I would say Jesus would have been a very evolved soul, irrelevant to, you know, what may be said about him. Whatever happens, he's an evolved soul, and who knows what his journey may be, how it unfolded after that time in the Roman times that is written about. A lot of people do talk about connecting with the soul of Jesus, and they call him Joshua. And he, a lot of mediumistic channels will connect with the energy, the consciousness of Joshua, and get a lot of wise stuff through. And this is relevant with many other, you know, ascended masters, as they may be called, or wise souls that have lived many lives, and they are willing to reconnect and share wisdom and knowledge to those that would want to hear it. And that is a way that unfolds. So I think does that answer your question?
Right.
Yeah.
It's good to understand that process of, you know, whether or not that may or may not have been the case, but just understanding having that kind
that's
of
why I like
idea, insight into it, you know?
Yeah. And, I was it's like, as if it's not, from a human terms, it's like we graduate, but that's really a human ego's perspective. It's not really a graduation in that terms. It's just that we evolve, and we're just drawn to be a spirit guide and work with people, or drawn into some other kind of work in the spirit realms, as it were, as we move forward. And some souls still decide to come back and incarnate on Earth. So just going back to your comment about how some people say, well, I'm never coming back and doing this again. You know, it's quite likely that the people that are saying that, and I'm sorry to use people that do say that, it's quite likely that you're going to come back, because the fact that you feel like that means that you have more work to do. And
you want to get on the
it won't be anyone telling you. It won't be anyone telling you to do that. It will be yourself choosing to come back.
Yeah, exactly. It's up to you in that case. And just for our viewers and listeners, especially for our listeners on the podcast platform, we're gonna Leon has kindly agreed to do a guided journey in just a moment, so you can actually watch that on the channel, on the YouTube channel itself, so you can see that later if you're only just listening, so you can watch that on our channel. But before we do that, Leon, as we go into that right now, I want to ask you, number one, if you could just please share with our viewers and listeners, you know, really a bit more about like your credentials, like your work that you're recognized for, like like holistically, and also, so that's part one. And part two, also just maybe just giving our viewers and listeners a general insight into why you decided to do this work, what led you to it, and maybe share briefly a kind of personal experience you had through this journey of a past life, and how it really opened up your eyes to your current situation. So that's kind of a three-part there.
Okay, I'll see what I can do. So I'm a regression therapist and psychotherapist and hypnotherapist, and I specialize in past life regression, inner child work, and life between lives, which is taking somebody beyond a past life into the spirit realms and working with guides, soul groups. And for me, I'm very passionate about that. I'm very, I feel very motivated to share this with people because for me, on a personal level, it has changed my life in many ways. So to answer your question, I'm just sort of work through which would be the best sort of aspect to speak about. But I was before getting into this, I was a terrible speaker. I couldn't speak publicly. I couldn't do a speech. I was very kind of closed in. And although I was, if you knew me, I'd be quite chatty, but to actually speak out in a sense where I'd be judged, I just couldn't do it. And that all changed for me because of a past life regression. So I was taken into a past life where I was a sergeant in the trenches. And part of what was happening was that I was having to give orders that I disagreed with to the men that I was working with, who were under me. They had to obey the orders that I gave, and I had to obey the orders that I was given. So I was giving these orders. And it was at the very end where I had to give the order to go over the top, that thing in the First World War. And to cut a long story short, that past life and the healing that then was the transformation that came alongside that part, I found myself really enjoying speaking publicly and doing group hypnosis sessions and interviews as well, which is made me realize how powerful this can be and how healing this can be, this process. So it gives me that motivation to want to bring this to other people that are interested as well, these kind of dynamics, and being present with my clients as they go through their healing, because it's important to sort of outline how I'm a healer, yeah, but I'm not doing the healing. I'm holding the space and encouraging and supporting my clients as they find their own way of healing and are able to empower themselves. And I think that's an important, it might sound subtle, but it's actually, I feel that's really big. And for me, it's an honor to be present with this process. It's so beautiful to help someone through, whether it's a current life trauma or a past life trauma that is troubling them, to help them through that process and reach that transformative level of healing it, whether it's needing forgiveness for the perpetrator, forgiveness for the self-acceptance, realizations. All of this is all part of the healing that one comes to so that they can feel at peace about who they are. And that there is, I think, where that's what I'm passionate about is that there. Did I answer all the questions?
Well, yeah, and you act as like really essential guide for getting people to, come to know and confront this in their life, right? And heal and have clarity, and it's very, very incredibly helpful to humanity and to the individual overall, because we're always kind of trying to seek that journey into our own self-discovery, and whether that's through healing or just peace of mind, whatever it is. But if you can guide people towards that, it's extremely, extremely, extremely helpful. And so just to conclude, Leon, and I hope this has been really insightful for our viewers and listeners. Please comment below if this has been insightful. Are you really interested in the topic that Leon is speaking of, and do you think it's really important for your life? Please comment below. And so, Leon, as we conclude now, can we start the guided journey?
Sure. Yeah. So I'd like to invite you all to this guided journey, this exercise. And it's only a short journey, just to give you an idea of how you personally perceive. So we all individually perceive our inner worlds differently. Some people are very visual, some are very kinesthetic, feeling things. Some people are very wrong way. Some people may be all three. So this is a really nice exercise to help you understand how your inner worlds. This is also relevant to people that might want to connect with their loved ones, of how they might want to communicate with their loved ones. So to begin this exercise, really, it's quite simple. I like to invite you to connect with a memory when you went home. Maybe it was a home when you was a kid, maybe it was the last time you went home, maybe you go through the front door, maybe it's the back door, maybe it's a flat, whatever that is for you. So I just invite you to close your eyes and just imagine that memory, that time, or maybe you could even make it up. It doesn't really matter. And just be there entering your home. And I suppose a lot of people would have to reach for their keys. So you reach for your keys. Maybe they're in a bag or on your belt or in your hand. Maybe you have shopping. And just notice that experience and just unlock the door if it's locked. Maybe there's a sensation or a sound. Maybe you see it. Opening that door, closing that door, and entering. Maybe you're got a hallway, or you're entering into a particular room, and just notice. I want you to continue to go into the kitchen. Everybody has a kitchen in their home. And going into that kitchen. And if you have shopping or bags, you put those down. And you can just notice what you notice, see what you see, feel what you feel. And on the counter, I'd like you to go over to a chopping board and just stand there by the chopping board. And on that chopping board, you can find a lemon, a knife, and take that lemon knife. I'd like you to cut that lemon in half now. Just cut it in half. Notice what you hear, what you feel, what you see. So you have half a lemon. And now take that half a lemon and cut it in half again. And now that small piece of lemon, you can just cut it one more time so you can make it bite size. And putting down the knife, just take that lemon, reach up, and just bite that lemon. Just bite into that lemon, into the flesh. And just notice that. Maybe you could reach for a glass of water. And you can now begin to use that wonderful imagination of yours and just look around your kitchen. And the kitchen that you hadn't noticed. Maybe the wall is distorted. Maybe the furniture has moved. You can just imagine a door there in the kitchen. And just wander over to that door. Just notice it, the textures. Maybe the colour. Maybe the door has a particular surround, a number. Really just notice the details. Maybe you can feel the texture. And this door leads to a positive past life experience. Place your hand upon that door. The other side of that door is a positive past life, one of your past life experiences. In a moment, moment when you pass through that door, you will find yourself in that past life, taking the handle and opening the door and passing through the doorway and closing the door firmly behind you. In that past life experience now, and just look down at your feet and the clothes that you're wearing, and you can just allow your first impressions to notice the clothing that you're wearing, and just allow your mind to notice the clothing. Maybe you're wearing something on your feet. Maybe you notice your hands. Maybe you're male, maybe you're female. Just notice how those clothes feel. Are they comfortable? Loose? And just bring your awareness to the ground beneath your feet. Is it stony or grassy? What is it, the ground beneath your feet? Just bring your awareness out to the wider view around you now. Just allowing yourself to observe this positive experience. Just feeling what you feel, seeing what you see, hearing what you hear. Just allow that scene to unfold a little bit. Just going into that scene a bit more now, relaxing into it. Connecting with a positive feeling that you're feeling. Maybe it's pride or joy, happiness, confidence. Just allow that feeling to grow. And you can be curious as to why you feel this positive feeling. Maybe you're aware of it. But the positive feeling is you can just anchor that. You can just connect with that as you begin to come back. Bring back slowly, bringing with you that positive feeling, that positive resource. Bring back to the door, move through the door, bring back into your current life body, closing the door behind you, bringing with you a positive vibration of energy, whatever that is, bringing that into your current life. And coming back into the chair that you're sitting in or wherever you are, and coming back into your current life body now. And when you're ready, you can just open your eyes in your own time.
Wow, that's really powerful.
Just give yourself some. That was quite a short journey, as it were. So there was very little bit of hypnosis in that. Some people, they can really connect easily just with that little bit of very light trance. Some people need a deeper trance, so that some people there needs to be more of a journey. But it's a nice way of for some reason, a light trance, and how the intention that's set at the very beginning is very important as well. When we go into past lives from a therapeutic point of view, and we're wanting to heal maybe sadness or whatever it is, they have a lot of that kind of energy, you know. But when we decide that we want to go into a life that's full of joy and happiness and resources, then that's the intention and that's the direction that we head towards.
No, that's just really, really incredible, Leon. I really thank you for sharing that with our viewers and our listeners. Actually, I think people who are listening just on the podcast platform can go through that by just listening. But I thought it was quite powerful. Just because like you said, you having the intention at the beginning, you really connecting at the beginning. If you really get into that like frame of being, so to speak, you can really, it really puts you somewhere, so
Yeah.
I think it's quite
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
I would really encourage our listeners and viewers to really try that in their own time, and Leon, just as we conclude, where can, for our viewers and listeners, if they want to do this in a more profound way, if they really want to explore this more deeply with you, where can they connect with you?
Well, I have a website which is called Inner Sight Therapies, and I do and because of what's been happening in the world lately, I've been doing a lot more online work, and it's been working really well doing this kind of work online. I do work here in my therapy room with one-to-one clients as well, but I'm really enjoying being able to connect with people overseas around the world that I wouldn't otherwise been able to connect with. And it's really great that we have this technology in this age that we can do that with. So you can email me or connect with me through my website or on Facebook, however you like to connect. And I'll be happy to answer any questions as well that people may have about this subject.
No, thank you so much, Leon. We really do appreciate that. And we'll include all of Leon's information in the description notes and the pinned comments and all the show notes, so you can connect with him and really, just go through this past life regression together with him in your own time, in your own pace, and from anywhere in the world. So, Leon, thank you again for this incredible episode and this incredible conversation with you. It's always a pleasure to have you on Spear Lifts, and we really thank you again for your time today.
Thank you.
And we will see you all on the next episode, and this will be uploaded on our podcast platform. Take care, everyone, and we'll see you next time.